Hi, Cubs. All right, this is going to be our last data display. This is called a two-way frequency table. And we'll get into it. This is the fourth time I've tried recording this, and I keep messing up. But I just keep thinking that you guys deserve my best, and I want to give you my best. And even though it's late and I'm tired, you are the most amazing things, and I miss you, and I want to do my absolute best for you. So you can keep me in good spirits, okay? So two-way frequency table. Now, if you were paying attention at all in histograms, you know that frequency means how many times something happens. So it's two ways things happen, okay? When you look at frequency tables, you're looking at not numbers necessarily. You're going to eventually get to numbers because, hey, it's math. But the answers you're getting from people, the data you're collecting, isn't numbers. It's yes or no questions. Okay, so when you look at that, that is called categorical data. Okay, categorical data is words. Okay, it's like word answers. Okay, for all of our other data displays, it was number answers. Your year, how many times have you been to the beach? How much money do you have? This is going to simply be two yes or no questions. Okay. So when you ask someone two yes or no questions, you're typically doing it to try to find a relationship. Now, you're not saying one causes the other. You're just trying to see if there's a relationship that occurs between the two things. And we call this bivariate data. Bivariate data. It just means two variables, okay? Two things you're studying. And bivariate data, my favorite like bivariate data example is if you were to study the amount of ice cream sales as versus temperature. Ice cream sales versus temperature. It's one of my favorite bivariate things because it's something you can easily grasp. The more that temperature increases, the more of an effect it's going to have on ice cream sales. It's going to go up. As this one goes up, this one goes up. However, if ice cream sales go up, that doesn't cause the temperature to go up. So it's just a cool thing to kind of study when you're talking about how things affect one another. So bivariate data. So this one it seems a little easy, and it'll beef up a little bit. But we'll start with an example problem. So let's say I asked kids. So let's write an example. Let's say I asked kids, "Do you like video games? And do you like anime?" Okay. Let's say I asked every single person in my study those two questions. Now, every person that answered this is going to fall into my two-way frequency table. Oops, that was a horrible line. Let me pull that down. I can remember, Chloe. You can tell I'm getting tired. Wasn't even near close, and it was that one. Okay, and there's graph paper for a reason, silly goose. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put yes here, no there, yes here, no there. Okay. So I'm going to put for this label, this is going to be video games, and this label will be anime. So think of yourself. Where would you fall in this grid? If you like video games, you're going to be in this column. That means your answer, you would be a person found in the yes video games column. If you don't like video games, you would find yourself in the no video games column. If you like anime, you would find yourself in this row. If you don't like anime, you would find yourself in that row. So let's just cover that again. So yes to video games, no to video games, yes to anime, no to anime. Okay, so let's pretend I asked each of you this question, and I typically like to do it in our classroom, but you know, we're doing the best with what we can. So let's say I got these results. Okay, I'll try and find another color. Oh, there's my blue. Okay, let's say I asked people, and 20 people said that they liked video games and they liked anime. Yes, yes belongs here. Yes to video games, yes to anime belong here. Okay. Then I said, "Do you like video games?" And they said, "Yes." They said, "But I do not like anime." That's going to be here. That's going to be 15 people. So these people are who said yes to video games, but no to anime. Then I said, do you like video games? And they said no. And then I said, do you like anime? And they said yes. That would be 5 people. They would belong there. And then last but not least, if you don't like either, so no and no, you would go here. I'd belong in this column. Not a big video game person. I'm not good at it. I usually only like things I'm good at. And I'm not really into anime, but I haven't given it a shot. You know me, I'm not a judgmental person. I want you to do what you do and like what you like, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead, and that's it. That's all a two-way frequency table is. Now it gets a little harder. There's a couple of key vocab terms I need to teach you, but that's kind of the gist of it. The first thing you should always do when you see a two-way frequency table is calculate the total people involved. So to calculate the total, you add all 4 boxes, 20 plus 5 plus 15 plus 10, 25, 35, 25, 35, 45, 50. So 50 people total were asked this question. It's good to reference that. It's good to know it because typically the questions are going to ask you something a little more in depth, like maybe what percentage did each person, what percentages in each spot. When we ask you that question, we're looking for what is called the relative frequency. Relative frequency is the percentage of each. Well, I've taught you many different ways to find percentages, and we did that in our supplemental learning a couple weeks ago. And so I like to do the part divided by the whole times 100. So I'm going to redraw my little thing because it didn't take me that long. So this would be 20 people out of 50. So I do 20 divided by 50 in my calculator. And then I would get 0.4, and then I times that by 100, and I would get 40%. Okay. So that was for my yes, yes. For this one, it is 5 out of 10 because 5 people were in that spot out of 50 total. 5 out of 50 reduces to 1/10, and 1/10 as a percentage is 10%. Okay. The next one would be 10 out of 100 here. I'm sorry, 10 out of 50 there. Sorry, I can't even remember what color pen I'm using. 10 out of 50, which reduces to 1/5, and 1/5 as a percentage is 20%. If you don't remember how to find your percentages, that's okay. You can look at your notes or look that up. Okay, to me, this is just something that I'm able to do fast because I've been doing it a lot of years and I know my fractions and converting them, especially when they're out of 50s. I know that I can just multiply the top by 2 and that gets me my percentage as well. So let's use that trick for the next one. If we know that we can just multiply the top by 2 since the bottom is 50 and percentages are out of 50, multiply 15 by 2 because that was that proportion. 15 out of 50 times it by 2 and we get 30%. Okay. Let's double check that. If we add it all together, we should get 100% because 100% of people were included in this. 40 plus 30 is 70, 90, 100. That's right. We got it right. So that's called relative frequency. So if someone was to ask you what percent of kids don't like either, you could say 20% don't like either. And you got that purely by taking how many said it out of, oh man, you can't see this. Let me just zoom down. I'm not going to redo it because I told you guys it's been crazy. I'll talk you through it again though. That was 20 out of 50 because 20 people voted for it out of 50, and 20 out of 50. If you just times the top by 2, you get 40. This one's 5 out of 50. Again, if the bottom's 100, the top has to be multiplied by the same number. So 50 times 2 is 100, 5 times 2 is 10%. This one is 15 out of 50. So again, to get to a percent, it's out of 100. So times by 2, times the top by 2, and you get 30. And here, 10 out of 50, you times by 2 to get 100, times the top by 2, and you get 20%. Okay, sorry, my bad. I just wasn't even checking the screen. I was too into my frequency table. So relative frequency, again, is the percent at each. All we did is we took the numbers here and took it out of the total and made it into a percent. So if someone asks you what percent of people like neither, you could say, okay, neither, neither, 20% like neither. If they said, what percent like both? You could say, okay, yes, yes, 40%. That's called the relative frequency. Now, the next one we're going to get to is where it gets a little harder, but I think it's something we can do. Okay. This one is called conditional frequency. It still is in a two-way frequency, so you don't really need the line here. Well, maybe we'll go like this so we can separate our work. So we'll just draw lines out here. This is still within this work. That was relative frequency. This is conditional frequency. Normally Miss Minch is way more organized. I'm learning from home too. So conditional frequency is when you look at only one column. Look at one column or one row. So conditional frequency is when you only look at one column or one row to kind of make a statement, like an inference about the data, okay? Now, when it's people, I don't like to be mean and say, yes, if you do this, you have to like that. So we're just using math to kind of inform our choices, but we're not gonna make judgments about people, especially because it might hurt someone's feelings. But in math, sometimes you just have to use the numbers. That's all you can do. So this is where it gets a little tricky because you're not going to use the same totals as everywhere else. So I was to rebuild our same video game and anime question. Okay, this is my yes, no, yes, no. This stood for anime. This stood for video games. Okay. If I put a 20 here, 15 here, 5 here, and a 10 here, okay, we're going to calculate our column and row totals. So 20 plus 15 means that 35 people, okay, 35 people said yes, they like video games, because 20 said they like video games here, and 15 said they like video games here, which means that's 35 people. How many people said no, they don't like video games is 5 here and 10 here, because this whole column represents no. 5 plus 10 is 15 said no, they don't like video games. Okay. If I go here, how many said they like anime? So 20 said yes and 5 said yes. So 25 people said that yes, they like anime. And here, no, they don't like anime is 15 plus 10, which is also 25. Now you might notice something here. If I add these two numbers together, that's 50. And if I add these two numbers together, that's 50. It's kind of cool, huh? That's because each person had to answer either yes or no to our questions, okay? So yes, this was 35 people said yes, I like video games, and 15 said no. That makes sense because 35 plus 15 is 50, and 50 people had to answer our question. Same thing here. Half like anime, half don't of our 50, okay? So conditional frequency is if I was to ask you a question and you had to make a statement about an inference you make. So let's say if I said, if you like anime, so let me write this down, it's kind of confusing. If you like anime, are you more or less likely to also like video games? So if you like anime, are you more or less likely to like video games? So I'm gonna use my highlighter because I need to I'm looking at one column or row. If I like anime, so liking anime was just this row. If you like anime, are you more or less likely to also like video games? Okay, so if I like anime, that means I was only looking in the yes one. I'm not worried about these people anymore, because if you like anime, I'm only looking at this spot. If I like anime, am I more or less likely to like video games? Well, if I like anime, 20 out of 25 total do, and 5 out of your 25 do not. So are you more or less likely? Well, purely looking at this, because the numbers, we know 20 is greater than 5, you are more likely. So you are more likely. Let me ask another one of these. This is a little complicated. If you don't like video games, if you don't like video games, are you more or less likely to like anime? If you don't like video games, so let me go to the no video game column. If you don't like video games, that means I'm just looking at that column. I don't worry about people who do. I'm not caring anymore. If you don't like video games, are you more or less likely to not? So if we look at that data, that was 5 out of the 15 do and 10 out of the 15 don't. So that was the 5 out of 15 do and 10 out of 15 don't. Well, a greater proportion of those who don't like video games also don't like anime. So you are less likely to like anime. Now, I know these are confusing, guys. If you want more help, there are more core focus videos available to that. It's lesson 5.7 in the linear equations book. 5.7 in linear equations. I know this is a little confusing, but really it's just taking 2 yes or no questions, grouping people into one of 4 spots. When you add them, it's the total. You can find the percentages of each by doing part divided by whole times 100. You've got to start to know that to find percentages. Okay, top divided by bottom times 100. And conditional frequencies are when you just kind of look at one section. You're just kind of trying to see if you can make a conjecture about math. Thank you guys and have a wonderful day.